Au revoir, Valentin Carboni. Welcome back on Younger Sharma channel, guys. Here to react to the news. Pretty much official, I think today. Maybe the presentation will be done. The official presentation of Valentin Carboni to Olympique Marseille. The young, talented Argentinian who's just won the Copa America with Argentina is moving with a loan with option to buy for Marseille. And the reported terms are talking about minimal loan fee of around 1-2 million, and then a possible redemption of 35 million euros, which is a lot of money for young Valentin, who is only 19-20 years old. Has only had really one full professional season under his belt, with Monza, as not fully starter season, but most of the season as a good amount of starts. Good season with Monza, put up goals and assists, and that earned him the call up to the national team ahead of someone like Matthias Soulé, who just got sold to Roma for over 30 million euros on a permanent, not a loan. So what do you guys think of this deal? I know Valentin Carboni in the Inter fan base has created a bit of a reputation because we're starving. Inter fans, Interisti around the world, we're starving. We want to see a young player come through this Inter team and be a starter in this Inter team, and especially when it's an attacking talent, it makes it even more exciting. So I know a lot of Inter fans have grown to have expectations, or have built up a hype over Carboni potentially becoming a first team player, especially the fact that he has been called up by Scaloni for Argentina ahead of Soulé. So people are saying he's already won the Copa America, he's more highly regarded than Soulé, so surely this guy is ready for Inter starting material. I think there's a few issues when it comes to Carboni. I do like him as a player. I just think the way modern football is right now, I think he's born maybe 15-20 years too late, because Valentin Carboni was born, or was a footballer in the early 2000s or early 2010s max, until that number 10 position disappeared. He would have been perfect in that type of football, when football was a little bit slower, a bit more technical. He is a throwback footballer, Valentin Carboni. He's a lovely technical player with a great left foot, silky left foot, beautiful touch, good final pass, good vision, creative, loves to touch the ball, comes deep to collect the ball, can beat a man, but the issue is he's not very intense in terms of, he hasn't got that athleticism, that speed over the first few yards. He can get away from guys, but he's definitely not the quickest player, especially for his age. He's not quick at all. So, and then of course that leads to also his position in modern football, because the number 10 position doesn't exist, especially in Inzaghi's formation. The number 10 doesn't exist, so that was already the issue with Inter long term. I never saw him, as long as Inzaghi was our coach, the only way he was going to fit into Inter was if he converts into a mezzala, so in the 3-5-2, one of the two midfielders, either left or right centre mid, or becomes a second striker, a la Dybala, whatever, the guy behind Lautaro, that roams around, causes trouble. But issue with both of those positions is, if he wants to be a second striker, you got to add goals and assists to your game. He kind of, as I said, had a few at Monza, but you saw the numbers that Soulé put up. Yes, of course, he was also taking penalties, but Soulé shooting from outside of the box, creating chances, his numbers in terms of dribbles, chances created, were one of the top in Serie A and in top 5 leagues in Europe for under 23 category. So you need a bit more, if you want to be a second striker, like how Dybala has, when Dybala plays, his goal per minute ratio is very high, or his goal or assist ratio per minute is very high. You got to contribute 2 goals. Does he have that in his left foot? he's very, very left-footed as well. That's one. I mean, it's not really an issue. A lot of left-footed guys like Dybala, like they're super left-footed. Like I think it's a thing with left-footed guys. There's a lot more talent in the left foot for some reason than right-footed guys can sometimes also play. You know, be both-footed. But Carboni is like fully left-footed. His right foot is only for standing. So there's some issues there if he wants to be a second striker, to be a bit more concrete. Obviously, as a mezzala, then he needs to develop, you know, different positioning, be more, you know, intense off the ball, learn, you know, tracking runs off the ball, playing a bit deeper, playing passes, safer passes, but also deeper passes. Completely different game. I actually don't know. Like, I don't know what player he's going to be in this formation, if he's going to develop into any of those. The Monza loan worked because they played a 3-4-2-1, so he actually played behind the main striker, was allowed to roam around, had a bit of defensive responsibility, obviously playing for Monza, but then was also allowed to have a freedom going up front. Marseille under the Zerbi, I think it's a good move for him. The Zerbi does develop talent. He's one of those coaches that gives youth trust. Interesting project at Marseille. With the Zerbi, you know, they signed Greenwood as well. Whatever you think of him off the field, whether he should be allowed to still play football, that's a different reason. But you know, it's an interesting project. And you know what I envision, usually the Zerbi plays a 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1. So he's either going to play off the right hand side, or if he plays a 4-2-3-1, hopefully his real position as a number 10. So as a loan move for Inter, fantastic in terms of potentially developing Carboni. But then if Carboni does really well and Marseille take the option, you know, then you lose out on a really talented player. But at the same time, the option is very expensive. You know, I think Marseille, what did they pay for Greenwood? 25-30 million euros, you know, similar to Italian clubs, French teams, even the big ones like Marseille, Lyon, like they only have a certain limit that they can really spend money on. And 35 million for a guy like Carboni, even if he does really well, I struggle to see that happening. You know, even if he does really well, I'm sure Marseille would try to renegotiate the price with Inter next year if they really want to keep him. But at the same time, in the clause or in the contract apparently is written that if Marseille do want to take out this, or they want to redeem him for that price, the agreed price, Inter have a counter option of like paying on top, or like a 4 or 5 million just to like cancel that clause. So essentially, if Carboni does really well and Marseille want to redeem him and Inter want to bring him back, Inter basically paid Marseille for this loan to develop him. You essentially paid the Marseille and the Zerbi to develop him, which actually I don't think is bad at all. If you guys are following me on this channel, I think Inter should do that more often with some of the more promising youngsters. Actually, like, you know, we're willing to almost pay for the loans to say, if you play, let's take an example of Kamate, or let's say Akin Sanmiro, who's gone to Sampdoria. I would say to Sampdoria, if you play, now you pay for this loan, okay, initially you've paid, I don't know, 500k for this loan, but if you play Aki Sanmiro for 30 games, at least 30 games as a starter, let's say 25 games as a starter, or minimum 1,500 minutes, something like that, then, you know, in the contract you could say, then we cancel out, like we give you back the money that you paid for the loan, or well, the more you play him, the more we pay you actually to play him, to like increase his value and increase, you know, the experience he gets. So I actually don't dislike that deal too much. And again, even if he does really well, as long as Inzaghi remains our coach, I just see a struggle for Valentin Carboni in this team. What do you guys think, guys? That's my opinion on things. Like, unless Inzaghi changes his formation to a 3-4-2-1 or a, you know, 3-4-1-2, or Carboni develops himself as that proper second striker that with the end product, I don't really see a long-term future for him at Inter. So to me, this is not particularly a bad deal. And you know, Marseille, much more of a platform compared to Monza. You know, other teams will be looking at Marseille, scouting him potentially. So even if Marseille don't end up buying him, it's potentially a platform to in general increase his value and be able to make some money on him next year. But yeah, what do you guys think of it? Do you disagree with me? Are you really sad about this deal? You wanted to see him at Inter? Where did you see him? Yeah, because as I said, I don't see him at Inter at all in terms of this formation. But where do you see him at Inter? Do you see him developing in that second striker role, or do you see him in another position? Let me know in the comments down below. Are you going to watch Marseille? Going to keep an eye on Carboni? I think I will. I mean, in general, the Zerbi, as I said, it's an interesting project, so I might tune into a few Marseille games anyway. But now I've got an extra reason to tune in, thanks to Carboni. But yeah, let's see what else happens in the outgoings. Fingers crossed his compatriot Correa is also sold somewhere. We need that to happen, because we actually need a second striker in there. So yeah, keep a look out on the channel for transfer news, Mercato, Inter news. Ciao ragazzi, always, Forza Inter, good luck, Carboni.